The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
Starting with the trade for Deebo Samuel.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So the Washington Commanders are trading for San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Of course, this team connected to that potential move ever since it was discovered that the 49ers were interested and were publicly acknowledging that they were interested in moving the veteran wide receiver. And before we get into all the things that are Deebo specific, what we got to do is look at the big picture here. The Washington Commanders in 2024, above all expectations, predicted to win about 7 games in the 2024 season. First year with GM Adam Peters, head coach Dan Quinn, rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, beat the brakes off of that expectation, won 12 regular season games, end up in the playoffs, win not 1 but 2 playoff games in the NFC playoff picture, end up in the NFC championship game, 60 minutes from the Super Bowl. So you could say it's successfully in 1 year's time unlocked their Super Bowl championship window. However, the question coming into this offseason would be, what kind of moves would Adam Peters make? How would Adam Peters address this offseason, approach this offseason to do things to open that window, start getting it even just a little bit of a crack open so you can look at this team and say they have a legitimate chance to not only repeat the success they had in 2024, but go even a little bit further. This trade for Deebo Samuel starts to open that window for the Washington Commanders, I believe. And we'll get into all the details of why I believe that here coming up in the episode. But the next thing I want to talk about, and I think I want to approach, is you, Commanders fans, the people who are here because you're a diehard fan, you bleed burgundy and gold, you call the team whatever team name feels most comfortable for you, and hopefully you're not out there arguing with everybody, because at the end of the day, guys, we all want the same thing. We all want this Washington football team winning football games. Every single trade this offseason has been tied to the Washington Commanders. Deebo Samuel, most recently Brandon Ayuk, San Francisco 49ers wide receiver, that a lot of people in Washington talked about last offseason, preseason, as he was having his contract dispute with the 49ers. Potentially there's a trade here for the Washington Commanders. Great friends with Jaden Daniels. Adam Peters knows him. But now all these other trades as well. Myles Garrett, no connection to Adam Peters. No best friends on the Washington Commanders roster. It's not about that. It's about the legacy of the team. It's about the elevation of the team. When these key blue chip players, marquee names in the NFL scene, go out there, start looking for new homes, what does everybody do on the national media, local media side? They start tying them to other teams. But guess what? When it's a team, or when it's a guy that wants to go chase a Super Bowl championship opportunity, or a guy who's looked at as a guy who could help get a team over the hump, they don't look at them and say, hey, maybe he can go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe he can go to the Tennessee Titans. Maybe he can go to, sorry, Ross Jackson, the New Orleans Saints. No, they say, what teams are on the cusp of winning championships that this guy could go make a great impact on? The Washington Commanders were, just as of even last offseason, one of the teams that we just mentioned before in that group. Right now, they're now officially a team that is in that upper echelon group. When you talk about blue chip players like Deebo Samuel that can make big impacts on NFL teams, who are the teams, what teams are out there that could be a Deebo Samuel away from reaching the ultimate goal in the National Football League? That is the state of the Washington Commanders this offseason. We've seen it all across the board. But now that this trade has actually been executed, you have a firm piece of solid evidence that you can grip to when you're talking to your fellow fans or even your rival fans who might be friends or family out there. So Washington Commanders fans, round of applause to you, because you've been here through so much, all the ups and downs, all the drama, all the turmoil. So enjoy the moment. Even if you weren't necessarily on top and on board with the Deebo Samuel trade, we will get to some of those concerns here in just a little bit. Even if you're one of the fans that wasn't necessarily sold into the Deebo Samuel trade, I want you to look at it just from the lens of your team. Your favorite team is now a team that across the National Football League, when you're talking about players that can make an impact for a championship caliber team, when you're talking about players that want to go hunt championships, the Washington Commanders are a team in that conversation. Of course, that is the biggest takeaway for me, is that the Washington Commanders, one, they're now that destination for free agents, for trade targets, all of it alike. Two, they now have the capacity to actually do it. And three, it makes sense. And all those three things combined means that you have a much larger chance of repeating 2024 success, extending it into the 2025 playoffs, potentially competing against teams like the Philadelphia Eagles. How do we get to that point? Well, that is where we got to dive deeper into Deebo Samuel. Who is Deebo Samuel? What is he going to bring to this team? How does his impact with quarterback Jaden Daniels further expand his impact? And then, of course, we are going to talk about the concerns that some Commanders fans, including our insiders, have been voicing to me ever since the Deebo Samuel trade started becoming a rumor. And, of course, the Commanders were tied to it. And, of course, it's all leading into our Mock Draft Monday episode coming to start next week, a Deebo Samuel impacted Mock Draft Monday. So we got a whole lot of things to cover here over the next few days as we react to this news. Deebo Samuel coming to the Washington Commanders, reported compensation unconfirmed at this time, 5th round pick. So you're getting a day 3 pick. And yes, the Washington Commanders are taking on all of the contract salary left and the bonuses left on the Deebo Samuel contract. Again, that is reported, so far unconfirmed, but reported by reliable sources.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. Tonight's NBA slate includes 2 embattled franchises just trying to pick up the pieces after the trade deadline. The Kings and the Mavs face off. The Mavs, slight favorites, laying 1.5 according to FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
He's back. Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams are in agreement on a restructured contract.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast.
Let's get right into it. After weeks of wild speculation, you had Giants receivers tweeting Rams emojis at number 9. You had a wild rumor that Tom Brady was raising up Matthew Stafford in Montana, taking him on a ski trip to recruit him to the Raiders. Well,
after a Starbucks fight.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy. You had insiders fighting at a Starbucks in Indianapolis over it, Travis. It was insane. After all of that, Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams are in agreement on a new deal, a restructured deal that will have him back with this Rams organization. He was not going to be playing on the current contract. They had to get a new deal done. They gave his agent permission to communicate and negotiate with other teams to test his value out. And look, yes, Matthew Stafford should not have a worse contract than Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff or guys like that. They saw there was more money out there for him, but at the end of the day, by all accounts, he took less money to get back to this comfortable situation where they were 14 yards away from hosting an NFC Championship game at home with a chance to get it to a Super Bowl. So the Rams are running it back with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, D-Mac, I think this is a great example of sometimes the thing that makes the most sense is the thing that makes the most sense. And I've been saying this from the beginning. And you heard me say this, the everydayers that have heard me say this, that, a year ago, I'm like, guys, this is stupid. He's coming back. Don't sweat this at all. And this year I think he's coming back, but you might want to sweat the Raiders a little bit. And the Raiders felt like maybe a possibility, but I kept kind of reminding myself. I was on with Patricia Traina the other day on Locked On Giants. And I said to her, I said, look, Matthew Stafford, from the moment he's come into this league, has been a great teammate and an incredible competitor. You're telling me that after 15 plus years in this league, that at the very last minute, he's going to go chase a few extra bucks? Like, it just didn't make any sense. He wants to win. The Rams give him the best chance to win. The Rams don't have a better option without him. That in the history of the NFL, the person who has made the most money in NFL salary ever is Aaron Rodgers. Number 2 is Matthew Stafford. You're telling me that he's going to leave over a few extra $1 million somewhere else to go be on a garbage Giants team, to go be on a bad Raiders team? It didn't make a ton of sense. Now, egos make people do weird things. Hurt feelings make people do weird things. But the Rams clearly wanted him back. He clearly wanted to be told, that we love you and you're pretty and we know that you're a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa, which he is. I don't know if he'll get to that dollar amount. We're still waiting to hear exactly what the details of the contract are. But he got what he wanted. He gets to stay in the place that wants to have him. He gets to play for fans that are thrilled that he's a made guy for, and he gets a chance to continue to win and compete. It's a win-win for both the team and the player.
Yeah, I love that you point that out, because when we do get details of this contract, whether it be a one-year deal where there was some talk that it's year to year or it's a multi-year deal, whatever it is, it should read as a headline, Matthew Stafford takes less money to go back with the Rams, and he turned down bigger offers from the Giants and from the Raiders. Both interesting situations. You have Tom Brady, you have Pete Carroll, you have Chip Kelly, you have an indoor stadium, $100 million in cap space with the Raiders. At the end of the day, if his number one priority is chasing another Super Bowl championship and hoist the other Lombardi trophy before he hangs him up, it's with Sean McVay. It's with an organization that he knows gives him the best chance to win. I never believed the Giants stuff for once. Maybe that's a little just a leverage play for him, just to get multiple teams involved to try to help him get his contract where he wants it to be. And as you point out, look, this is someone who's made a ton of money, but he's also mentioned wanting to win a gold jacket. And the thing about Matthew Stafford, and I see this out there, look, there's only listen to everyone out there. It means something to me that Tom Brady went to the extent that he did to try to get him to the Raiders.
No doubt.
Said, I want Matthew Stafford in this rebuilding Raiders team that has had no success. Maybe Stafford can change our franchise's fortunes. You hear coaches, you hear everyone out there. Pretty much the only person that doesn't think Matthew Stafford is elite is Madden, based on how they rate him every single summer. Outside of that, he's got that reputation. And you look at his numbers since he signed with the Rams. I mean, 8th in QBR, 10th in passing touchdowns, 9th in yards per attempt, but it's playoff wins, tied for 3rd in passer rating. Outside of Josh Allen, he's 2nd in the sport. He's played in 7 playoff games for the Rams, has been better than the other quarterback in essentially all of those games, and that's what matters most. It's about competing for championships, and I think that's what both sides realized at the end of the day, and they got to the dollar amount that made sense for both sides.
Yeah, bingo. This was I want to win. This gives me the best chance to win. I want to continue to build my Hall of Fame resume, which, by the way, I think he has already completed. And I think once you've kind of checked that box, I don't think you can play your way out of it. I think once you're in, you're kind of in, and I believe that he is. But he wanted to, and I don't want to try to speculate too much here, but I think this is one of those things that, you want to go on a couple of recruiting trips. You want someone else to tell you how pretty you are. You want someone else to tell you how important you are as well. The same person's telling you this, but they're also kind of trying to, do it. I don't want to say on the cheap, but they're trying to do it as inexpensively as possible so they have money to spend other places, et cetera, et cetera. To have somebody like Tom Brady whisper in your ear that you're my guy has got to feel pretty good. To have somebody like the New York Giants say, look, we'll give you the 50+ million that was reportedly on the table. That's got to feel pretty good. The man is a competitor. The man is about winning football. Let's run it back a little bit. Why is he not in Detroit anymore? There's only one reason. They couldn't win. Like, he was there for 10 years, saying, doing everything he can, playing hurt, doing everything possible. And he gave them 10 years to try to get it figured out, and they couldn't do it. And then he finally went and said, look, man, you got to send me somewhere else. I can't win here. You guys can't get it right. And the second he got a place where it worked, we see what it looks like. So that's what he's about. We're all human beings. We all like to be, compensated fairly. We all look across the aisle and see somebody, sorry, Tua, sorry, Trevor Lawrence. And you're like, that guy sucks compared to me. Why am I making, 60% of what he makes? That's a human reaction. And I understand why he would want to be made whole like that. But at the end of this entire speculation, these last weeks of trying to figure it out, I think the overriding factor is this was the best place for him, and the Rams wanted him back, and they finally figured out a way to make both of those things happen.
Yeah, I think this only kind of strengthens the relationship between Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, Les Snead, and it proves that they're truly in lockstep moving forward. The fact that Matthew Stafford did get to see what it's like with another organization, have them woo him, because I'm sure that when he's listening to pitches from the Raiders and the Giants and he's seeing the skeleton of a contract and how that looks, in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking about what the Rams do and how first class of an organization they are. It's almost like, hey, if you're with a girl and she says she wants to have a break and you're like, what does that even mean? You could like date other people during this break and something. And then if you really kind of, know she'll be coming back, whatever, you feel good about it. I think that's what the Rams were. I think they were so confident in their situation that they said, hey, go out there, explore, see what it's like, see what your value's like. And then when you come home, you're going to feel even better about your decision because you know what you have. And I think, too, the interesting thing about all this to me is last decade plus, I mean, dating even further back, I mean, kind of the old adage was like, okay, draft that quarterback, hit on that quarterback, have him on that rookie contract, and then you throw the money at the edge rusher, the cornerback, the big receiver, and then you compete for a Super Bowl title. The Rams drafting so well, I think, is the biggest reason why they're willing to give him that raise, give him that guaranteed money, because they said, okay, we'll give it to Matthew Stafford. He's won a Super Bowl for us. We don't have to spend $30 million on an edge rusher because we drafted Jared Verse. We don't have to spend $20-25 million on a Aaron Donald replacement because we found Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk and Byron Young and all these guys they found. Puka Nacua is your fourth pick in the fifth round. By the way, Puka Nacua reacted to this, and he was in Utah, or he was going to Salt Lake City and missed his flight. So he missed his flight at LAX posted. So I think that's the beautiful thing is, look, they stayed together for the kids, as you would say. Now the kids are this foundation, and now it's all about hitting on free agency, right? And kind of the biggest, Travis, the thing that I like, I think both of you and I we both felt like there was a really good chance that this deal would ultimately get done at the end of the day. And one thing that crossed my mind, all this was when Matthew Stafford is at that negotiating table, I'm sure it's about the money, but I was thinking, hey, it's about the crack ribs. 4 crack ribs that he played with, right? It's about the weapons around him. Where the conversations about, okay, where's the cap space going to? Are we going to add another weapon alongside Puka Nacua? Are we going to draft a tight end? What are we going to do to improve this offense and put more talent so we can truly go after another Super Bowl?
The only thing I would add to that, Doug, is that it's about the head coach too. And look, I'm a Pete Carroll fan. I think Pete Carroll's really good at what he does. I loved him at SC. I know you're as a Bruin, you can't really say that out loud. I understand, but
GDP.
Yeah, but he knows what he's doing, and that's why the Raider thing was a little bit. But Sean McVay is in a very small group of guys that you might find somebody that's as good, but you're not finding somebody better. And somebody that you speak the same language. I've heard them talk about, they can challenge each other. They look at football in a similar way, and they can go about this and trust one another. I think that's a huge part of it. That could Matthew Stafford drop into any of the other 31 teams and figure it out? Sure, he could. He's really smart. He's been in the league a long time, and he's just one of those guys that's going to process really, really quickly. But wouldn't it be better not to have to do that? Wouldn't it be better to just continue to do what works? And the Rams, look, they've had a weird couple of years where they kind of snuck, I don't want to say snuck into the playoffs, but they didn't really lock it down until late in the season, and they got hot at exactly the right time. Most of that is a direct line back to the quarterback playing at the level that he has, and to run it back made all the sense in the world, and they're going to do it. And it's great news for Rams fans.
Yeah, look, there's this talk about picks, and could you get a conditional first-round pick? You get a 2026 first-round pick, a second, a fifth, things like that as far as a compensation package. Look, we played Fisher ball for a long time. We saw what that looked like, right? I mean, you didn't hit on a lot of those picks. So, I mean, you just don't want to trust that. And, yes, I'm to the point where the Rams have killed it so much in the draft in recent years. I'm almost like, okay, man, it's got to even out at some point. Right. I mean, with the way they hit, I mean, I'm hoping that I'm wrong. Right. But I mean, they've killed it so much in the draft that I'm going proven quantities.
Yeah, look, and not only have they've killed it kind of across the draft spectrum. I know that they finally had their first round picks. It's Jared Goff and Jared Verse. Well, it looks like they drafted an all-pro. They got the rookie of the year, and it feels like he's going to be an all-pro level player for a number of seasons. Braden Fisk in the second round. They've gotten starters in Puka and Limmer, much later in the draft. We saw guys like Cam Kitchens who made an impact on this team. And then, they've missed on a couple. The Jonah Jackson thing was a miss. I would argue that the Tutu Atwell, considering where he was drafted, was a miss. The offensive line, Logan Bruss, was a miss. So, nobody, like you said, nobody's going to get them all right. But if you get more right than you get wrong, you're in a pretty good spot. And they're getting a lot more right than they get wrong. So it does allow you to spend a little money on your quarterback, an aging quarterback. Old athletes are always a little bit of a risk, but I feel pretty good about this one. It doesn't feel like, he relies on a ton of athleticism. It's more on experience and knowledge and being able to process really quickly and that big right arm. And I certainly didn't see a ton of drop off in that.
Yeah. And who's punching air right now is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers looked like he was just waiting for the Raiders to trade for him, and then he could fall into this situation. And look, Aaron Rodgers, we've talked about on this show a couple of different times. He's not a terrible quarterback. He's not the elite MVP Aaron Rodgers anymore. I mean, I think he could have given this team a chance to win. They'd be interesting. They'd be fun. But there's no way that a 4 years older Aaron Rodgers is better than the current version of Matthew Stafford. I think there's a world where that's the case.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rodgers ended up in Vegas. I think that's at least a possibility. But no, look, the Rams – maybe you could talk yourself into Aaron Rodgers is going to be on his best behavior, et cetera, that Jimmy G's been in the system, that Sam Darnold might have been the right. They're not getting a better player than Matthew Stafford. There just was not a better player available. This is why those other teams wanted him. This is why all the other dominoes in the quarterback, universe will start to fall now, because everybody was waiting to see where the best guy on the market was going to go, and that was number 9.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. Tonight's NBA slate includes 2 embattled franchises just trying to pick up the pieces after the trade deadline. The Kings and the Mavs face off. The Mavs, slight favorites, laying 1.5 according to FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
The NFL Combine is complete, and we're hearing a ton of rumors.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast.
Hearing some other rumors out of the Combine. And if you're asking yourself, man, the Titans are only barely to Sam Darnold. It wasn't even the Titans are in on Sam Darnold. It was a logical spot. You know what I mean? And then you take the Justin Fields thing. So they're only interested in Justin Fields or Sam Darnold. That's pretty light for a team that is going to pass on quarterback early in the draft. Well, quarterback fans, guys who want the Titans to take the quarterback, guys and gals, I'll say, who want the Titans to take a quarterback, I got good news for you. This could be smoke. And I know that the comment section is, if you don't want a quarterback, you're going to say, oh, this is just the Titans smoke screen trying to get people to trade up. I will continue to say, you do not trade down if you really love one of these quarterbacks. You don't do that. You can't do that. If you love one of these quarterbacks, you take them at number 1 overall. Now, I have been skeptical of how much the Titans do like the quarterbacks. I've been skeptical of whether those quarterbacks are worth the first overall pick in the draft. But it's pretty clear coming out of the Combine, Cam Ward is worth it. Tony Pauline said, at the same time, I'm told by league sources that the Tennessee Titans, in fact, like Cam Ward a lot. Hence, if Tennessee can't swing a deal to move out of the top spot, Ward could very likely end up with the franchise. Now, again, what I would say is, if you like Cam Ward that much, why are you willing to move out of the top spot? Now, the answer to that would obviously be, well, if someone offers, 3 or 4 first round picks, you can get a trade back in this year's draft, get a first in 2026, a first in 2027, a couple of mid-rounders thrown in. If you can get 5 picks back for one, including 3 first-rounders, you make it no matter who is available. And I'm sorry, but I disagree. Would you trade Jaden Daniels for 3 first-round picks? Would you trade Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow? Would you trade those quarterbacks for 3 first-round picks? I wouldn't. Even Justin Herbert. Would you trade Justin Herbert for 3 first-round picks? No, I would not. If you have a quarterback that can be that good of a quarterback, and I think that Cam Ward, at his absolute best, can be like the 7th, 8th, 9th best quarterback in the NFL and an actual difference maker. He may not be elite like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, but he could be in that next tier of quarterbacks. And we just saw a quarterback in that tier, Jalen Hurts, win the Super Bowl. So I guess I continue to say, and I come back to it, is if the Titans really like Cam Ward that much, why are they so willing to move out? That doesn't line up to me. But the reality here is that everybody coming out of the combine, I said Cam Ward is so far and away the number 1 quarterback. If you're a Shedeur Sanders person and you want the Titans to take Sanders, it ain't happening to number 1 overall. You can forget about that. Shedeur Sanders is not going number 1 overall. He's not that level of prospect. Maybe in the bottom 5 of the top 10 because quarterbacks get pushed up. But I think we might see Shedeur Sanders go in the mid-teens or the early teens, as a matter of fact. Like, Shedeur Sanders is just not on Cam Ward's level. He's just not. And we're also hearing, and I retweet all this stuff on my Twitter at TicTacTitans if you want to go back through and read like all the individual snippets that I'm pulling from here. But we also saw that Cam Ward dominated his interviews. Let me make sure that I read to you everything that I've read here about Cam Ward and about the interview stuff. Josh Norris from Underdog Fantasy said, spoke to one team in Indianapolis who interviewed both Ward and Shedeur as part of their 45. Same sentiment is Cam Ward was outstanding. Vic Tafur, who does great work, I believe, for The Athletic. He covers the Raiders mostly, but he's a senior writer at the Athletic. In his combine notes, he put, the gap has widened between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And the sense among other teams is that Sanders will be available when the Raiders are on the clock at pick number 6. Again, Shedeur Sanders, not a top 5 pick. I've said throughout the process, I think Shedeur Sanders is a fine prospect. He's a first-round quarterback, but he's nowhere near consideration for the number 1 overall pick. So to me, if the Titans truly do like Cam Ward, you take Cam Ward. And I'm getting closer to feeling like either they take Cam Ward at number 1 or they don't pick at number 1 at all. There is no Abdul Carter at number 1. There is no Travis Hunter at number 1 overall. That's where I'm starting to lean. As the Titans are going to take Cam Ward or they're going to trade out. Because Cam Ward is that good to where someone will take him number 1 overall if it's not going to be you. Now, again, is this smokescreen? It makes sense for the Titans and Cam Ward. The Titans love Cam Ward. They'd take him. There are a bunch of people who love Cam Ward. They'd take him number 1 overall. There's real interest for the number 1 pick and trading up because teams love Cam Ward. The Giants didn't get Matthew Stafford, so they need to trade up to number 1 overall. The Jets have been throwing out packages to trade up to number 1 overall. All of that noise is good for the Tennessee Titans. It creates more buzz in the number one spot, more interest in Cam Ward. So, and the quarterback is what's going to get you the biggest return. So if you want to be skeptical and you want to be negative, you could say all of this is nonsense. And this is the Tennessee Titans and Cam Ward's agent trying to drum up as much interest in him as possible. And the Titans drum up as much interest as possible in the number one overall pick. You could say that. But at some point, I also think some of this might just be true. The Titans are interested in trading down with the number one overall pick. And if they get a good enough deal, they'll do it. But they're also very high on Cam Ward, and we're very impressed by him this week. If you're somebody who wants Cam Ward, this was a good weekend for you. And I got to tell you guys, I tweeted it. I'm starting to get that feeling. I'm starting to get that, oh, man, can they really pass on Cam Ward? I don't know if they can do that. You guys know I'm team trade down, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, but, you know, I made the joke. Cam Ward is looking at me right now like the Green Goblin mask in No Way Home, Spider-Man, where the Green Goblin mask is on the dumpster, and it's telling Norman Osborn, you're a coward. Be the Green Goblin. That is what Cam Ward is doing to me right now. He's looking me in the face and saying, you want to take me. You want to take me, and you know it. And I'm having a hard time fighting the feeling. Oh, I'm having a hard time fighting the feeling.